Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Lindy, and I am a senior recruitment consultant here at Beaumont People. I recruit and permanent corporate services roles on the charities team. With me today, I have Annabelle Stewart, who is another senior recruitment consultant on the charities team. Annabelle specializes in, and I think excels in, temporary recruitment support. Welcome to Ask Me Anything. This is a 10-minute power session where we discuss current issues or topics relevant to today's constantly changing recruitment landscape. So we do have a lot of content to get through in 10 minutes. Unfortunately, we won't be able to address any questions live, but please do leave a comment if you do have any questions, and we can be sure to follow up with you offline. So Annabelle, over to you. What's our topic today?
Thank you, Diana, for the very overly generous introduction. So today's topic is writing a standout resume. Like Diana said, we do have a lot to go through, so I'm going to jump straight into it. Length and format of your resume. So just wanted to start out with chronological order of your experiences. So it is a really common mistake to make, but just ensuring that you do have your most recent experiences at the top of your resume and then working your way down by years. It is really important that any hiring manager or recruitment agency is able to see that most recent experience and also most recent skill set. Font. Now we do see some quite creative fonts and templates on resumes, but just ensuring that whilst yes, absolutely be unique and be creative, that you probably don't overdo it and overcomplicate the resume. It's always really important that we're able to really clearly see and have those highlighted experiences come through rather than getting sort of lost in sort of complicated or very sort of colorful formatting. So italicing or bolding any words that you think are relevant or important to highlight, absolutely. But just ensuring that, potentially looking at some word templates or resume templates that are available online as well to guide you. Now, always make sure that following on from that as well, that it is visually easy to read. So making sure that you don't have, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages. As much as you can, try to condense and concise that information down to 2 or 3 pages. Now, there are going to be a lot of candidates that have got 10, 20, 30 years of experience, but just ensuring that you do, and don't be afraid to highlight the first sort of 10 years or the most recent 10 years of your experience, and then sort of summarizing the experiences underneath that. Of course, you can go into more detail when you're in a phone screen or when you're in an interview to explain what those roles were. But just for the interest of grabbing the attention of the hiring manager as quickly and effectively as possible, I would say keeping that to 2-3 pages long and making sure that you are selling yourself. So making sure that you don't just have 2 dot points underneath each role, making sure that you are potentially creating some subheadings of responsibilities and achievements in that position, remembering that this is going to be the first sort of expression or first way that you are able to sell yourself to that hiring manager. So making sure that you sell and give as much information as possible into each of those roles. So sort of 4, 5, 6 bullet points, and don't be afraid to oversell yourself with any achievements that you've had in those roles as well.
Absolutely. I think those are some great first points. And on to the second point, which is grammar and language. Let's just bring it back to basics for a moment. So basic, but so easy to get wrong. Make sure that there are no typos, and just get one of your friends, your partner, your family, whomever, to read it with fresh eyes. I think after you've looked at the same piece of paper for, half an hour, an hour or two, you're definitely going to miss something. So again, just always run through it with fresh eyes, use your spell check, and just make sure there's no typos. It's the small things that can make a big impact. We're not on that point yet, but just keep that in mind. And going back to Annabelle's point about, the content and making it visually easy to read, make sure that there's no, simple mistakes in your experience, like making sure the dates line up with one another, or if you have 2 roles at the same time, which can sometimes happen, clarifying as to why. And just in terms of language, I think that's really important. down to the details of keywords. That's how we as recruiters and hiring managers search databases. So make sure you match the language for the roles that you're wanting to step into with the words that you use and the language that you use on your CV. For a data or a technical role, make sure you're using words like Excel or SQL or what have you. And keep in mind, last but not least, that the more frequently these words appear in your CV is actually the higher that you'll appear in the list of a search. So more is definitely more in this case. And I want to actually move on to our next point, which is small touches that equal big impact, because I do have a few pieces of advice that I want to pass on there. These are things that come up quite frequently when I'm looking at CVs, and I think it's these small tweaks that might take you 30 seconds or a minute to do that can actually change the outcome of your search. So the first point I'd like to start off with is tailoring your objective or biography. That 1 or 2 liner that you put at the top of your CV. Again, it's really easy to change that for each application. It is the work of less than a minute, but it has a big impact. And I'll tell you a story in a minute as to why. And again, it can actually turn us off your application if, for example, in your objective or bio, you say, you're looking for roles specifically in the education sector, but you've applied for one of our not-for-profit jobs. So again, it's those small things that can have a big impact. Equally on the cover letter as well, addressing the correct person in the cover letter if possible. I'd be surprised if an ad doesn't have a name or a contact of who you could reach out to. But it makes a difference to say on a cover letter, dear Diana Lindy versus dear recruiter, right? So those small tweaks can have some really, really big wins. On the topic of cover letters and CVs as well, just ensure that you don't put anything crucial to your application just in the cover letter as opposed to the CV, keeping in mind that we typically read the CV first, and if we don't see what we need in the CV, we might not get to that cover letter. So to keep that in mind as well. I think an example that shows how these small tweaks can give you some big wins is an admin role that I recruited several months ago, and it was an entry-level administration role. Had 300 applications, as you do. Out of all of those 300 applications, there was only one candidate who had actually tailored both the cover letter and the CV to state the name of the organization and the name of the title as well. And they got the job. So I think that's just a great real life example of, how you can stand out from the pack and how you can do that in your resume as well. Really quickly, a hot tip is make sure you put the months along with the years in your work experience so people aren't guessing. Just to explain that a bit further, 2020 to 2021 can either be, December 2020 to January 2021 or January 2020 to December 2021. So in other words, it could be or 2 months or 2 years. That's a huge difference. And that's something my clients often comment on if that's not on a CV. If you are working in short-term contract roles as well, a small tweak, but make sure you specify that. You might appear to be jumpy, dare I say a bad word, if you have a string of short-term roles, but have no reason as to the why. And last but not least, I'll say, I really think that small company blurbs underneath the company name are a nice touch. Sometimes we're looking for a specific industry experience. And again, going back to keywords, this will make you appear higher in a search. So if I were to be updating my CV, I wouldn't just put Beaumont People, I would say Beaumont People, and underneath I would say an amazing boutique recruitment agency supporting permanent and temporary recruitment services across associations and memberships, commercial, education, and the not-for-profit sector. If my bosses are looking, I'm not updating my CV, but just to use an example that's front of mind. So those are some small tweaks, but I think have a huge impact in your search. I've seen it happen, and I wanted to pass that on to you guys. Annabelle, do you want to finish us off?
Beautiful. I hope you aren't searching. So I think, yes, we've covered a lot. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. Like I said, we will get to them and we will get back to you, absolutely. So please don't be afraid to reach out to us. Remembering that your CV is the first impression. So and potentially could be your only chance to impress the recruiter or the hiring manager. So making sure that you are putting your best foot forward and you are taking the time that you listen to these points and that you action them, and that you really do take the time and tailor your resume and your cover letter for each position that you are applying for, because it does make a huge difference, from behind the scenes. So we hope that you have found something useful from today's session. Don't hesitate to jump on to the Beaumont website if you have any questions. And like I said, feel free to drop a comment in the chat below. Thank you.
Thank you.